Hello and welcome to See You Live. I'm Susan Post, Associate Editor of Columbus Underground, and I have with me co-founder Walker Evans.
Hello.
We're running down some of the most important topics that we covered this year. I'm going to kick things off at number 10. Did a lot of coverage of local art scene. Have a monthly series of local artist spotlights and also had a couple of arts-based podcasts. One that I found really interesting was the profile of Mandy Caskey. She's a large-scale muralist who's done a lot of work at Gravity in Franklinton, and just find the scale of those works totally fascinating and really interesting. She also had some things to say about public art and kind of the perceptions in Columbus. So you should definitely read that and kind of get her perspective on that. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, I really like the podcast that Tim Fulton did on the Confluence Cast with Scott Woods, and talking about the creation of the Streetlight Guild and all the things that he's been working on. So that's another one worthy of listening to when you have 30 minutes to sit down and
Definitely.
go through that. Yeah. The number 9 topic this year that we covered was immigration. A lot of updates on that front. There were some interesting, local rumblings about ICE raids.
Right.
The different communities were worried about over the summer. Some of that stuff got canceled and shelved, but it was kind of a hot button topic for a minute there. And then we did an update. Lauren Sagar, our former writer, did a video piece with Edith Espinal, who's been living in Sanctuary for over 2 years now.
Yeah, since October 2017.
Right. So kind of getting an update from her this year was really important to really humanize what those kinds of policies have on people and their families.
Right. Another big topic that we covered this year was affordable housing and workforce housing. Brent Warren actually did a video with Homeport kind of discussing what those terms mean and what that looks like. And I think there's a lot of confusion about what affordable means and what workforce housing means. And I know that's something that we definitely are going to keep digging into next year because there's a really big lack of affordable housing in Columbus right now.
Number 7 on the list was city politics. Here in Columbus, we had a mayoral race as well as city council races. And
Did you call it a mayoral race if you ran unopposed?
Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther ran unopposed for his second term. He won, obviously.
Yes.
But he sat down with us at length for a video and a podcast, almost an hour, I think, to kind of go through policies and all of that, and it was interesting. I was also invited to host the Columbus City Council debate with the Columbus Metropolitan Club. So we got to very hands-on be a part of those conversations, ask those questions. There were a lot of suburban races as well, and the country's first Bhutanese representative was elected in the city of Reynoldsburg, along with 3 black women, and they were the first black city council members in that suburb as well. So lots of interesting things going on all around the city at the local level.
Definitely, and that kind of comes into our next topic, which is the national politics and the debates. Going to obviously have a lot of coverage about that coming up in 2020. We've also partnered with the Gateway to screen the debates and have some discussions around those. So definitely look out for more of those events in the new year.
Yeah, those are fun. Number 5 was the topic was about the suburbs kind of growing up and out. We've seen a lot about the continued growth at Bridge Park in Dublin, but also we had some interesting articles and interviews and podcasts with city officials in Reynoldsburg and Whitehall and some of their sort of master planning efforts, what they're looking to do to kind of urbanize a bit, provide more walkability, provide more mixed-use communities in their suburbs, and kind of bring things up to current.
Yeah,
date.
people read those. Definitely find a lot of interest there.
Yeah.
Which brings us to number 4, which are transit and development corridor updates. So this year, the corridor concept study was released, and that outlines 5 corridors that could accommodate more than half of Columbus's predicted growth by adding denser development and faster, more reliable transit options. So that plan was released, and then there was a more detailed plan released for one of those 5 specific corridors, the Northwest Corridor, which runs from, which follows Olentangy River Road from downtown to about Bethel Road. And really, I think the whole point of this is to kind of help curb that urban sprawl, the suburban sprawl that's happening around Columbus right now.
Yeah, we're growing no matter what, so taking some of it and applying it where we want it to go. Number 3 on the list was the loss of some of our community activists. Amber Evans, who passed in January, and Ruben Castilla Herrera, who passed in April. Both of them were very involved with a lot of different local organizations at
Right.
the grassroots level, including the People's Justice Project and Central Ohio Worker Center. So wanted to make sure, to recognize them for their efforts and still continue to mourn their passing.
Right, and I think that really generated some discussion around mental health for the activist community and making sure those individuals are taking care of themselves as well.
Right.
So number 2 big topic that we covered were police community relations, and within that, the disbanded vice unit and got a new police chief. So it's kind of a lot has happened in the past year. Had Vice Detective Andrew K. Mitchell was arrested. Right after that, the vice unit was disbanded. And then kind of attempting to address some of that criticism and controversy, there's a study done and a couple of reports released that should help kind of inform changes for the Columbus Division of Police in the coming years. We also got a new police chief this year. So after Kim Jacobs' retirement, Thomas Quinlan had taken over as interim chief, and then earlier this month he was named chief. So some interesting discussion there about hiring someone within the department versus an outside candidate. And we'll definitely have some continuing coverage of that coming into the new year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many of the policies talked about this year get implemented next year and what actually changes and what might not change.
Right.
Yeah. And then the number one, most important topic of the year on the site was abortion. Less of a local Columbus issue, but definitely a state issue. In Ohio, we had a 6-week abortion ban pass. It was then blocked by a federal judge. We're still kind of monitoring and waiting for updates, but we've done a lot of interviews. Shout out to Lauren Sega again,
Right.
who kind of spearheaded a lot of that earlier this year. Interviews, podcasts. She has a really compelling piece. All of these stories will be linked in the text below the video. Talking to some individual women who have gone through the process
Right.
of having abortions and really heart-wrenching stories of really difficult decisions. It goes way beyond just the politics and the policies and talks
Right.
about the effect of human lives, and that's
It's very personal.
yeah, really good and important thing to read.
Great. Well, thanks for tuning in. Definitely stay tuned. I'm sure a lot of these topics will continue to cover within the new year.